everybody, and welcome back to Short Film Saturdays. I'm saying welcome back because it's been quite a long, I mean, not that long, but it feels long, a long hiatus, right? We finished our second season of Short Film Saturdays in December, and now we are back for the third season, now for 2023. And we are kicking off with an amazing filmmaker today. We are here with Yossera Bouchtia, and I'm just so stoked to share two amazing films with everyone, to discuss it with you guys. It's going to be great. Let me tell you a little bit about me and Soleil Space first. My name is Nase DeSanders. I'm the Community Outreach Manager for Soleil Space, and we're a media company based in Brooklyn, New York. Our mission is to achieve a more equitable and representative global film and television landscape. Our focus on the global diasporas of Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East, with the goals of forming closer transcultural community bonds and providing opportunities and resources for our creators to produce premium world-class content. We aim to lift up underrepresented voices from these regions that are not often seen, authentically represented in the global mainstream media. And there's no better way to do that than via short films. Shorts are often the purest form of artistic expression and often, though not always, executed within the boundaries of smaller production budgets. Since launching Short Film Saturdays in late summer of 2021, we have featured 80 films from 96 filmmakers in 44 countries to date. Those are big numbers, and we are just adding to that today. So Soleil Space also has some news, some pretty big news, actually. We have just launched the next exciting phase of our content ecosystem. We've launched the world's very first truly global community streaming platform. And this is bringing unprecedented technology and innovation to the streaming space. Soleil Space is a first for global creators of color and the only cross-cultural destination exclusively dedicated to the content of the global South diasporas. The platform allows filmmakers to independently monetize their content, build their own micro communities, and interact directly with the intended audiences. It elevates creators alongside their content through cinematic tour around the globe. And as a special gift to our Short Film Saturday viewers, we are offering the first 2 months on the platform for free. So be sure to use code SFS60MAR4 on SoleilSpace.com to use that free trial of the platform. The code is only valid for the next 2 weeks, so hurry up and sign up. We're going to have the code below in the description, and we're also going to drop it in the chat for you guys, okay? So be sure to check it out. So let me tell you a bit about our guest. Yossera Bouchtia is a Moroccan-American director, screenwriter, and producer whose work is committed to shedding light on the hidden truths while bridging the gap between the Eastern and Western worlds. Yossera received her M.F.A. in film directing from Columbia University in NYC and earned both a B.S. in psychology and B.A. in cinema from the Virginia Commonwealth University. Her film work has been screened at the Sundance Film Festival, Salento International Film Festival, LA Shorts Fest, Flickr Rhode Island International Film Festival, FilmShop Breakthrough Series, Women's International Film Festival in Salé, Morocco, and many more. Yossera is currently based in Virginia and is an assistant professor of cinema at the VCU School of Arts. And both of Yossera's films that we are about to watch today are available on the Soleil Space community streaming platform. So, Yossera, please tell us a little bit about the two films we're going to be watching today.
Sure, and thank you so much, Nays, and for everyone for being here. Really excited to share my first films. So the first one that we're going to watch is called I Am Selma. I Am Selma was a first for me. It's the first time I directed my own writing, first time I produced my own writing, and it's a very personal film that I wrote when I was really grappling with my identity in post 9/11 America. My other film that we're going to watch, Afri, The Coming Night, also has a lot of firsts. I went to my birth country, Morocco, and we went to Ouarzazate, which is the desert, and very small crew and a very intimate setting, and really tried to create a mythological tale between a brother and sister. So I'm really excited, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Beautiful. Alrighty, so here is how today is going to work. In a second, we're going to go ahead and watch Yossera's films back to back. After that, once the credits are rolling, do not go anywhere because we're coming right back for a Q&A where we're going to ask Yossera all of our burning questions about these two films. And then at the end of that, we're taking audience questions. So as you're watching, if you think of any cool questions to ask, please stick around and ask them at the end. And with that, enjoy the films. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Short Film Saturdays. We have just watched two amazing films by Yossera Bouchtia. And for those of you who maybe joined late or right now you're watching the posted Q&A afterwards, I will let you know that both of Yossera's films are available on the Soleil Space community streaming platform. So if you want to go ahead and watch those, please go ahead to soleilspace.com and you can use code SFS60MAR4 on the website for free 2 months on the platform. The code is only valid for the next 2 weeks, so you got to hurry up and sign up, okay? With that, let's dive into the Q&A. First, I Am Selma. What a powerful story. It is so amazing to see, especially young women, really just like take the mantle and decide, I'm going to do exactly what I want to do, what I believe in. It was so, so cool to see. So, Yossera, what inspired you to make I Am Selma?
Yeah, so I Am Selma, is very personal. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I was really looking back on my childhood when I started writing this script and specifically my early teenage years. And I was around 13 years old when 9/11 happened. And at that time, I could clearly remember that, my identity suddenly moved to the forefront to who I was. And, the fact that I spoke Arabic, the fact that I was Muslim became so significant. And looking back on that, it was just such a tumultuous time, and I felt so much tension, so much clash. And so this film is really about a character who's grappling with all these issues and this tension around her and wanting to reconcile what feels like a duality in herself. And she does it in the boldest way that she thinks is possible to her. So this is really like the seed of the film, and I think it's still relevant today, despite,
absolutely.
20 years later.
Absolutely. Wow. So the film reflects real lived experiences of Muslim women in the United States, as well as other Western countries, but we're speaking about the United States today. Were the stories informed just from your own experience entirely, or was there also a research process?
There was, research in terms of just the women around me, my family members, my friends around me and their shared experiences. But I was really focused on, this one central character and her own devotion to God and her own relationship to her religion. And, despite there are certain complications with that, she's still trying to figure out, what that means to her, what devotion means to her entirely. But she's in that process. So, there's a lot of angst in her, and there's a lot of just wanting to find her own identity and wanting to find her own truth. So I really was just hyper focused on her relationship with her cousin is also a complicated one, because both young girls are choosing different paths, and there's no right or wrong. But the fact that, that they come to a moment where they do clash, where the cousin does not stand up for her, and so that's when Selma really takes it on her own to do what she needs to do for herself.
Very nice. And so you said you were about 13, 14 when 9/11 happened. Were you or any of your peers at the time wearing hijab?
No, I never wore the hijab. And so it's not biographical in that way. But still, I felt like I had to, hide myself. I felt like suddenly being in my body was not safe. And so, the film really touches on that. But I think it speaks more than just about wearing the hijab. It's about really, vocalizing who you are and having your voice heard, no matter where you come from.
Yeah.
And so the hijab is just a metaphor for that.
Yeah. And so we see that Selma's mother is not super supportive of the hijab, clearly not for the religious reasons, but more, again, that safety element, that worrying about your kid in this white American context. How is she faring? Did you have conversations with your parents during that time about, what was going on, your safety, how the students were reacting to you and your peers, things like that?
Yes, yes. And, it was a scary time. Everyone just was, there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of grief and all around and confusion around, how do we move forward? And
Yeah.
so within that, my parents tried to protect us and in the most instinctual way that they could. And for them at that time, it was a bit reactive and,
Yeah.
they just wanted to make sure that no one was going to bully us, no one was going to attack us. So a lot of it was trying to assimilate as much as we can, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it didn't feel right. It felt like I was, betraying a part of myself, something that was very important to me. And I rebelled against that in so many ways.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so
Mm.
I understand their instinct to protect. But there's also, I think, another way to find that peace. And I think it starts from really owning who you are first and
Yeah.
foremost, and not having any shame around who you are
Mm.
and taking control of the stories of your own story.
Mm.
So that no one else is telling your story.
Absolutely, yeah. So Selma, at one point in the story, she says to her cousin that she cannot imagine herself without her hijab. I thought that was a very powerful moment. And then in response, the cousin points out, she says, because they're at home, she's like, well, you're not wearing it right now. So I found this moment to be super important. Can you elaborate on what this means, what this moment means for Selma's identity?
Yeah, so every woman's relationship with the way they express themselves is really personal. And when I say express themselves, I also mean through clothing, through just how they present themselves. And for Selma, the uniqueness is again through her devotion and through her relationship to God and what she holds value in her own spirituality. And that connection to the hijab is really important to her. And again, it's a personal choice. So even when the cousin says, when Selma asks her, you're not wearing your scarf, well, she says, well, it's the personal choice. And they're both making personal choices, right? So
Yeah.
there again, there's no right or wrong. But one's personal choice just needs to be honored and respected versus
Mm.
another. So for Selma, that's her hijab matters to her because that is how she feels herself in the world. That is how she is able to really own who she is and how she wants to be seen in the world and how she wants to also, interact in the world.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at this time, it's coming with a price, right?
Yeah.
So how she grapples with that is what the film is trying to make sense of. But yeah, so again, like I can't see myself without it. It's because it's so important to her.
Yeah.
And yeah, finding that peace with that.
Very interesting. So then, what would you like girls who may be struggling with the pressure to or not to wear the hijab? What would you like them to take away from this film, I Am Selma?
Again, I think this is a very personal choice. And there's a lot of ambiguity here that I would like audiences to find their own answers. I'm not here to, give out a message about the hijab, to wear the
Mm.
hijab or not to wear the hijab. It's such a personal choice. And I would hope that young women or older women are empowered enough to really find that decision and honor their decision without any influences around them.
Mm.
So that's my hope.
Very nice. Awesome. So now we're going to switch gears a bit and talk about Afri, the coming night. So what inspired you to make Afri?
Yeah, Afri is very different from Selma, but I think there's similar themes with the main character. It was first inspired by I was working with a co-writer from my grad school when I was doing an MFA in New York at Columbia, and he was reading a lot of Isaac Asimov, and there was one short story in particular that we came across about a world that had multiple suns and in this world they actually discovered darkness, and with that science fiction story, I just started seeing something that can unfold in the desert in Morocco. And
Mm,
instead of sci-fi, instead of purely science fiction, I wanted it to be more mythological, more of a folk tale. And the process was a little bit just spontaneous because we never had like a cleared out script. We had
mm,
more of a skeleton, more or less. But then once we started shooting, it was like improvise here, improvise there.
very
Here's
cool.
this moment. Let's make a scene around the sun here. And so we were just kind of paying attention to what we were witnessing around us, and also the family that we were working with. They were all non-actors, first time on screen. So much of the story came in the editing. And
Very cool.
yeah, so very different from Selma.
Yes. Have you, this is something so random. Have you seen the Chronicles of Riddick?
I haven't.
It is, it's a Vin Diesel film. It's like, it's not that good. It's like an early 2000 sci-fi movie, and it has the multiple suns where like people are needing to hide in darkness because there's like monsters. So it is not similar to Offrey at all, I will say. But because of like that's kind of similar premise, it made me think of it immediately the first time I watched it, which was kind of funny. So I would recommend you check out Riddick at some point.
Yeah,
This
well.
super, it's not that good a film though, I'm letting you know right now. Let us know in the comments if you guys also thought of Riddick when you saw Offrey. So, I mean, it's the title, so obviously we have to talk about it. Can you further explain to us Offrey, the Amazigh goddess and protector, and her role culturally in this story?
Yeah, so again, this is something that came like after we filmed, and really in the editing when I was piecing together a lot of the scenes. And Afri, I discovered, like the opening introduces her, she's an ancient feminine deity that was heavily, and she's still dominant, but very much so before the Abrahamic religions came to Africa, specifically North Africa and Northwest Africa. And she is such an important goddess because she represents sustenance and protection. And she's a very fierce presence. And there were a lot of devotees, around at that time that honored her and worshipped her. And in my editing, I noticed that, my actors, when they were referring to the word shelter, they kept using her name, Ifri or
Mm,
Afri. And
mm,
so from there, I started looking further into it, and discovered that's how the name Africa came to be. When the first invasions came, they came across temples around for Afri, and so they named the whole continent Africa. So in
wow.
a strange way, I discovered that this film is actually about this presence that I was feeling in shooting and
Mm,
writing and editing, and that is this ancient deity who I think is still relevant, and is still someone, I mean, a deity that's still contemporary to today. So
mm.
so this is kind of honoring that, and honoring her.
That is so, so interesting. You learn something new every day. Well, yeah, that's really interesting. I had no idea. So about the color palette or lack thereof for Afri. I love the boldness of the black and white. Why did you decide to go this route?
Yeah, so the black and white, I think, gives a sense that, we're not in this world. And I even, with the first shot of the film, we see two suns. So I'm trying to suspend the audience's disbelief that we're not on planet Earth, we're somewhere else. We're in an alternate parallel world that's very similar to ours, but something is off,
Yeah.
and just slightly off. It's not like glaringly off. So the black and white also, make sure that no one is looking at this and thinking, oh, this is Morocco, because I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of, when people think of Morocco, it's such a colorful place. There's a lot of bustling markets, and I wanted to get rid of anything, that could reflect that. So black and white kind of gave a blank canvas for that, and
Yeah.
allowed this mythology to really stand out.
That's very smart. Yeah, very cool. So what was the vibe like on set? I understand you were filming on location and during Ramadan.
Yes. So we were filming the end of, yeah, it was like around the end of June. So around the summer solstice, and very hot. It's the desert, we're in the driest climate possible. 10 minutes feels like 3 hours under the sun. So we took a lot of breaks, and even like the pace of it all was very slow. And, again, we were working with children, so we had to go at a certain rate. But it was
Yeah.
also Ramadan. So on top of all these other challenges of being in a new, place, and the heat and everything, we also were fasting. At least the adults were fasting. And so, that means no food, no water. And that got like really intense at times.
Oh yeah.
But by some miracle, we were able to get through it. And not only that, there was a lot of just grace around the process itself. So yeah, I look back at it very fondly, but it was very, very challenging.
Oh, I bet. Oh my gosh. It's so funny because if you look up any article about like filmmaking, they're always say like the first rule, keep your crew fed. And you
Yes,
were like, nope, not
yes.
this time.
I I had a very dedicated crew, and
Yeah.
I could not have done it without them. Definitely not. They were
Yeah.
everything to this film.
And so all the adults were fasting together, yeah?
Yes.
So I think that makes a bit of like we're struggling together, right? We're all in this together. We're getting through it together kind of thing, like going through the trenches. Oh, that's so lovely. Alrighty. Well, not well, you know what I mean. Anyway, now some questions about you as a filmmaker. I'm dying to know what forms of art inspire you the most as a filmmaker. This could be anything, other films, music, painting, whatever it is. What do you find inspiring you the most?
Yeah, I'm inspired by everything. It's so hard to pinpoint. But when it's time for me to kind of think about my next film, my next project, I'm always looking at something, that is related to some spiritual element that I have questions around, and that is also related to some form of identity. I think because I questioned so much my sense of belonging when I was younger, having moved to the United States at a young age, and questioning, yeah, just who am I in this world in relationship to everyone else around me, and more importantly, who do I want to be in the future, right? And
Mm,
so those are kind of the central themes that I think are always coming back, and always re-inspiring me.
mm,
But music is a huge thing. I always look to music when I'm looking to write a new script, especially when I'm trying to find a tone or a mood. I think music is really, really powerful. And then I somehow always turn to impressionist paintings, because to me
mm.
they're the most emotional.
Yeah.
And so anytime, I'm really ready to start making a film, I do go back to looking at the Impressionists and seeing just, again, camera-wise and image-wise, what is it that I can bring and merge with my own style and the style that I see in front of me.
Wow, very interesting. Very cool. So, music. Both films had beautiful music, and they were both, it was featured very strongly, right? So strongly I could call them like their own characters in the story. So can you tell us what kind of music are we hearing in the films, both the films we watched today, and what is the cultural significance of it?
Yeah, so the for I Am Selma, it is inspired by Middle Eastern, and also there's a combination of jazz. The artist there is Brandon Terzik, who's from New York. And again, I really just I came across his work online, and it just felt like the rhythm and the spontaneity of it just matched in so many ways,
Mm.
and made it feel very cinematic for Selma, even for
Mhm.
her art. Um, for Afri, I will say that it's a well-known composer. So I was able to use the music for Afri because I made Afri as a student. So under that, I was able to use it. But all the music is from Morocco specifically, and much of the music is from the film Babel.
Oh, very nice. That's super
Mhm,
cool.
mhm.
Alrighty, so I would like to open the floor to audience questions now. Everyone, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. If you submitted a question earlier in the stream, I did not see it, I'm super sorry. Please go ahead and send it again so we have them all at the bottom so I can see them together. So while everyone is busy typing away, Yossera, how has your experience been on the Soleil space platform?
It's been a lot of fun just seeing the many films, the many countries being represented. I feel finally this need is being met where, there's a lot of unheard voices, a lot of hidden gems from the diaspora. And finally there's really a platform addressing this. So I'm super excited by all of the films that I've been seeing, and I'm also incorporated in my own classrooms, and I have a lot of plans for how I want to engage my students with just the diversity I see.
Very cool. Oh, that'll be so fun in a classroom setting. I'm imagining it now. Awesome. So while we're giving the people a bit more time to type away, what is next for you? What projects are you working on? Is there projects we should be looking out for in the pipeline? Like, what do you have going on?
Yeah, I am working to expand Afri as a feature film at the moment. I'm developing it. So it'll be a lot more elaborated from, the short film that everyone watched today. I am also working on another feature film by the name of Yasmin Jasmine. And this one is a horror, and it's set between the United States and Morocco, and it's about a young woman who's haunted by her own doppelganger ghost. So, so these are the two films that I'm currently working on.
I love that because definitely in Osprey, like it doesn't get into horror territory, but it's on the cusp of it, right? Like you could see that it could go in that direction. So I love the idea of you working on a horror story. So excited to watch it. How can audience members keep up with you? How can we, where can we follow you so that we know what is coming next and we're up to date?
Yeah, so I have a website that I like to keep up to date. It's simply www.yossera.com. And then I also have an Instagram that you can request to follow me. It's Losyos, Losyoss. And you can also follow me on Soleil Space.
Perfect. Alrighty. So now we've got some audience questions coming in. First one, Yossera, can you explain the difference between the hijab and the scarf? Is it the same thing?
in the context that Selma's referring to, yes. She's referring to the same thing, and she's trying to kind of address it in a casual way for Mona. But the hijab, of course, there's an element, there's a significance to it that holds a different weight. And that's going to really, going back to the relationship that Selma has with her own hijab and what it means to her. But there is so there is a difference, but in the way that Selma asks her question, she's trying to get at the same thing.
Okay, very cool. Next one. This question, you might not know the answer to this one. This seems like a scholarly question, but yeah, if you do know, says, so Africa is such a continent, many countries. How consistent is AFRI across the continent?
Yes, I'm not sure, beyond North Africa and West Africa. But this is the research that I'm currently doing for my feature to really see her prominence.
Very cool. Oh, it's so exciting. Next question. We had a bunch of questions coming in. I love to see it. For Afri, as you were fasting, did any spiritual revelations come to you while on set?
Interesting question. I wouldn't say revelations, but the process of filming, we were discovering moments of the film. We were discovering moments in the story, and things just unfolded really miraculously and gracefully. So the final image of the moon in the end, for example, we did not plan for it. We did not know that it was going to be, this beautiful blood orange moon. So there was just so much serendipity and synchronicity that was happening that I had to just give in. I had to just totally just work with utter abandon. And I think fasting and just, again, being there during the holy month of Ramadan helped tremendously, really, really tremendously.
Wow, that sounds so special. Wow. Next question. We have plenty of audience questions coming in. Thank you, everyone. How do you balance the Muslim identity and the American identity without losing one or the other, whether in film or in your personal life?
Yeah, how do you balance? With Selma, she does it in a very bold way, in a way that is very courageous. And I like to think that everyone needs to find their own courageous way to balance in a way that speaks to them and in a way that honors what feels true to them, right? And going back to, the earlier questions around whether to wear the hijab, whether or not to wear the hijab, I think spirituality is so, so personal that you have to take time by yourself to really see what matters most to you and what is most significant to you. And what does spirituality mean to you? And that is different from every single person. So finding that balance, only you can know that, and it takes time, and it takes time to really just ask the questions. I think it's important to ask that question in the first place.
Absolutely. Yes. So another question. Do you think the United States has become more accepting of the Muslim identity, or has the prejudice just become more blatant?
There's been a little bit of a roller coaster the past 20 years, but I think what's been nice is a lot more voices are coming forward, and a lot more voices are being heard now around the prejudice. And it's not just about being Muslim, it's the prejudice across just differences and what it means to be tolerant of different cultures. So I think, thank goodness, we're finally at a point where we can no longer just keep it inside ourselves. We have to address it. We have to confront it. And luckily, it's being confronted by many, many voices. So I'm seeing it in education, as an educator myself, I'm seeing it with my students that there's a lot more tolerance across the board than when I was a student, and when I was a teenager, when I was in my early 20s. But we still have a lot more work to be done. The work is not over, but we're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. Alrighty. So I'm only going to take one more audience question. There's plenty coming in, but I want to be respectful of time. So our last question is from Quinn. What happens after Selma is wearing the American flag as her hijab? What's the realities of being a Muslim in America today for you? So two questions, that is.
Yeah, so what happens when Selma wears her American flag? Well, again, in the film, everyone's really shocked and surprised. But it's that audacity. It's the audacity to really reclaim one's identity and do it in a way that no one can say anything to you, right? It's just like, oh my goodness, wow. You don't even have to open your mouth and say, I am American, I am Muslim, I am all these things. The image says it for itself. And I think that's way more powerful than any words can communicate. And so in my mind, Selma continues wearing the American flag as a hijab.
I love that for her. I really do. And then the second part of the question, you've already touched on this, but what are the realities of being a Muslim American in today for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, again, I've really found a sense of peace with it, and most recently, it's been reclaiming my name, my birth name, Yossera, which is Arabic, which comes from the Quran, which means a sense of ease. There's a passage in the Quran that says, after every hardship, there will come ease. And for so many years, I allowed many people to mispronounce my name, and so it's about reclaiming just, again, my integrity and my heritage and my roots, because they are very, very important and they're fundamental to who I am.
Beautiful. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, for letting us show your amazing films, for sticking around to talk about them, for answering all the audience questions. This has been absolutely lovely and an amazing start to Short Film Saturdays for 2023. So everyone, don't forget, if you joined in late, if you just want to watch these films over and over and over again, you can do that at SoleilSpace.com. We have launched the world's first truly global community streaming platform. All right, so obviously you got to check it out. And just for our Short Film Saturday viewers, we are offering the first 2 months on the platform for free. You just have to use code SFS60MAR4 on SoleilSpace.com. The code is only valid for the next 2 weeks, so hurry up and sign up. The code is in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out. And it's also in the chat, so easy peasy copy and paste. With that, we are ending our very first episode of the year. I will see you all on March 18th. March 18th is our next episode of Short Film Saturdays. So I'll see you all soon. Bye.